So tonight we're going to be talking about forgiveness. And these are my thoughts on forgiveness and my learning to date, so to speak. And consider that it's one word, right? Forgiveness, but it's a big word, and it has a lot of facets to it, a lot of dimensions to it. So we're going to talk about all these dimensions, all these facets. We're going to look at it collectively together, and as we go through it, kind of see how that fits in for you, and how you're looking at it at this point, and how it might trigger something in you or bring you to not a new idea, but just a different way of looking at it for yourself. Because forgiveness is probably one of the biggest things that we can give ourselves. And when we start to work on ourselves, what I call that inner work, or that work within ourselves, we're going to start to not relive physically, but we're going to start to relive emotionally some of these aspects of ourselves. Some of these aspects have been, put down into the depths of our bowels, so to speak, and we try to forget about them. So the interesting thing about emotions and traumas and things that have happened to you, they're always present with us, always present. And they can become cyclical at times where, days, weeks, months, or even years will go by. And then all of a sudden, like this circle, boing, it's back into your mind. And it does bring up those emotions, those angers, the frustrations, all of that emotion that you're feeling around it. So when we do the inner work, that gives us the opportunity to adjust in ourselves, in our thinking, and in our emotional structure. So when it does recirculate and recycles to us, we're now looking at in a different place, or with a different concept within ourselves. So we've all been hurt before. And when I said forgiveness is multidimensional, one of those aspects is that we've all been hurt, but hurt or instances that happen have different levels of intensity. It could be something very simple. It could be something very, very traumatic. So know that in that structure of forgiveness, some things are easier to forgive than others. And I've always heard this term, even as a young child, and even today, those folks that will say, that is unforgivable. That is, I guess, for some, that top place within themselves of a trauma or being hurt some way that they can never let go of. So I just kind of want to jump back for a minute and say, we never let go of our experiences and what happens to us. It's only, again, as they recirculate in our mind and come back to us, how are we looking at it and how are we thinking about it now? For some of us, forgiveness is an instantaneous thing that can happen. For others, time heals all wounds. So sometimes time will play a factor with that. And if your mindset is in a place where you're moving towards forgiveness, then that, when that resurfaces or when you rethink about it, you're already in the process. But if you've just pushed it down into your system and trying to forget about it, like it never happened or something, when it comes back up, you're going to relive that exact emotion that you were feeling, that anger, that sorrow, or that sadness. Lack of forgiveness creates suffering. Okay. it creates suffering within yourself. So consider, as we move through our meditation tonight, I'm going to ask you to look at some things inside of you that you might be fighting with in the concept of forgiveness. And we're going to try to adjust our emotions and our vibration and energy around it, so we can allow it to take on a different vibration within us. So that's unforgivable. So everything is forgivable, but I want to preface that everything is forgivable, but there's something you should consider in this concept. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Okay? Forgiveness does not mean condoning. Forgiveness does not mean there's consequences. Sometimes things happen to us, we can forgive, but sometimes we need not forget, and we need to follow through with healthy boundaries and facilitate consequences that helps us in our healing as well. There's really no reason to suffer if you understand within yourself that forgiveness is present. So that's the big item. Number one item is forgiveness present with you. Now, we've all had experiences and things happen to us that we forgave people, or things that in that nature. Other things we haven't. So if you have had an experience of forgiveness, you know it is present in an experience. But forgiveness is present in the heart. The mind is not necessarily the right area of your energy system to facilitate forgiveness. Okay? Your mind will constantly play with you back and forth. If you go into your heart and you go into a place of self-love within yourself, this is where forgiveness happens. You can alter your thinking from and by your heart. So this is also, again, a time factor and something that needs to be a continuation over and over and over. Sometimes, well, I'm feeling it, and then I'm not feeling it, and then I'm feeling it, and I'm not feeling it. Know that it's like practice makes perfect, right? You're practicing the art of forgiveness. You will practice the art of forgiveness your whole life. You can master it, but the mastery is in the heart completely. It is in empathy. And when I say empathy, I'll give you an example. Not you, but let's say somebody around you you may know. And not in a judgmental way, but you know that they're really not completely conscious of what they're doing. They're making decisions, they're doing things that they're not really thinking about. You've ever had that person say that word to you, and that word comes out, and you could see them as they're saying it. They didn't want to say it, but they weren't even thinking what they were saying, and it hurt you. Like whatever it is, you're ugly, or you're fat, or whatever it is. So the starting concept would be for us to come to a place of understanding that we're being hurt by the unconscious. let's say, for instance, somebody grows up in a household where there's a lot of abuse as a child. They grow up through their teenage years. They're angry, right? Always going to fight and to argue. And they get into a family dynamic situation with a wife and children, or something like that, or a school or whatever, and they start hurting people because, see, now they've grown up in a situation where they were abused. This is what they know. So when I say empathy, if you're conscious, you can actually see within them that they're acting out something that they've learned. Not to have sympathy for them, but to have empathy for them, to realize that there's a saying, forgive them for they know not what they do. This is a huge, huge passage. We all know where it comes from. We know who said it. Forgive them for they know not what they do. That is by far one of the strongest statements to consider for yourself moving in forgiveness. You're understanding that they're doing something unconsciously. They're hurting you. But you see, you don't have to suffer, because you can give them that love and that forgiveness. And I'm saying you don't have to give it to them, but you need to give it to yourself. They may not even want it or take it. It's not really important that you're forgiving them. You're forgiving yourself for feeling that emotion and feeling that structure around it. So, can you let go of things? I'm here to say, in my experience, I have come to understand within myself, I can't really let go of anything that's happened to me. I can't. It's in me. It's part of me. It's part of my structure. But I can look at it differently. I can look at it through the eyeglasses of forgiveness. Same thing when you are on the giving end of it and someone else is on the receiving end of it. If you are unconsciously causing suffering in someone, know that there's a reason why you're doing it. It's not necessarily your true self. It's a part of your makeup that is in a reactive stage to something. So you're reacting and you're moving in a certain way, and it's almost like your subconscious is taking the wheel. So when you look at that and you say, oh man, I really didn't mean that. I didn't mean to do that. Like, when that happens, that's the moment where you become conscious of it. You find the forgiveness within yourself. If you have the opportunity to ask for forgiveness and it's received, that's wonderful. But remember, being the maker of a problem can cause suffering to you because you did something wrong. So where do we go and how do we get rid of that? It's the same process. You're either the giver or the receiver. But the giver and the receiver equally can find forgiveness within yourself. It's real important to practice this, because if you are not practicing it, you are not practicing the art of forgiveness. within yourself, you're setting yourself up to suffer, to have anger, to have all the emotions that are counterintuitive, counterproductive, and eventually that dis-ease within yourself will start to affect you. You'll make bad decisions, you'll space out sometimes, you won't think about what you're doing. It's just dis-ease causes disease in the body. The first disease that happens is a mental issue. Like you get crazy inside, so to speak. Once that starts to happen, that's when it starts to embody itself in the physical body. I'm sure you've all had that gut feeling where you're like, you feel so sick about something, right? It started in a sound or an action. It went into your mind. You saw it. It entered into you. It had to travel through your heart and into a place of emotions. So if you're conscious enough, you can see that person really didn't mean that. They're not really acting, they have problems. Again, healthy boundaries. You don't have to put yourself in that place anymore. You can nicely, easily, somehow create some kind of verbal communication. And if you can't, be conscious of the fact that you can't, and start working on it with you. Let's say you have a flat tire in the driveway. Your dad's there, your brother's there, who's ever there, and they see you have a flat tire. Well, they're gonna come outside and hopefully help you. There are people in your life like that can help you with the forgiveness concept. These are people who love you, that will listen to you and give you support and help you. But know that if you're on a highway and it's in the middle of nowhere, there's nobody there, there's no cars there, and you get a flat tire, you're going to have to change it yourself. Accept the fact that the role of forgiveness is your role. If you're fortunate enough to have help and have listeners and good support, that's great. But inevitably, it's always going to come down to you. That saying, we're born alone and we die alone, there's no question about it. When your eyes close and you're ready, you're coming out as a baby, or you're going out as an old person, or wherever it is, you're going to take this with you. So know that the work that you do in the physical life right now with forgiveness is important, because that emotion, those memories, and those things are going to follow you on a soul level. So it's real important to practice the art of forgiveness. When you pass away, everybody says, well, you go to heaven or hell. I don't believe that. I think that there's different levels of vibrations where the soul lives, and wherever you are energetically, that's where you're going to vibrate in and vibrate to. So know that the work that you can do with yourself in this life is very, very important. It's your job to make everything as good as you can. Listen, you can maim your body, cut your body, it will heal. It may not heal to the perfect extent that it was before it got hurt. Your pain and your suffering will heal, but know that the scars are there. The scars are there. They're not leaving you. And all these people, well, it's going to leave. I'm going to get over it, or I'm going to let it go. It doesn't leave. You don't let it go. You just look at it differently. When you start to consider what you're looking at and what you want to change, that is really, really important. If you have a large accumulation of lack of forgiveness, again, it's a multidimensional thing. I may have one thing that's on my plate right now, which I do. I have one thing on my plate right now that's absolutely probably one of the most miserable things that I have to let go of. If I was to say, if I had 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 things that are troubling me, that accumulation gains strength. So know that if you're dealing with a lot of it, you're dealing with a lot of suffering, and you're dealing with a lot of experience and a lot of different instances, that emotion will start to pool together, and it will become bigger. Try not to pool everything into one place. If you're looking at it for yourself, look at it and say, well, this is what I want to work on today. Try not to work on it all at the same time. Work on one thing at a time. And look at it. And look in your heart, whatever it is where you go. And we all can go to different places, but for me, it's in my heart. For you, it might be somewhere else. But for me, it's the heart. And I believe for everybody it is. But don't take on the whole game. Take on one player at a time, or take on one experience at a time. Consider to take on the easiest first, because now you're practicing the art of forgiveness. If you're practicing and you don't have it together yet, and you go to the one place that is the absolute worst place, that it might work for you. But for me, my experiences start off small, start taking baby steps, and then before you know it, you'll be running. The next thing you know, it'll just be a click of the finger. That's really, it can happen in an instant. So take on the little guys first. If you do, and I will absolutely guarantee it, it's going to come back around. You're going to think it again. But if you're conscious of it, you're going to notice it coming back. You're going to notice that thought coming back in your mind. You're going to know that you've done all that inner work up to this point, and you're just going to watch it go by. You're going to watch it go by instead of sitting and dwelling in it. Remember, when you sit and dwell in something, if you're sitting in a beautiful hot pool in Italy somewhere, sit in it and enjoy it. But don't sit in a muddy pond where you're getting dirty, right? So get out of the pond, get into that beautiful hot spa and sit there. Don't sit there too long. Thoughts come and go. And I would love to know someone to tell me where they come from. They come and they go. It's another thought. It's another thought. It's another thought. But if you sit in that one thought, you can sit there for a day, an hour, a week, a day, a month. You could sit there for your whole life. You can wake up day in and day out feeling absolute suffering. So practice the art of forgiveness. It's an art form. It is an art form within yourself. And I will say to you that it's an evolutionary process, and it has no end. Some people will look at world events or things that have nothing to do with them and become so obsessed and so angry and suffer so much for something that's not even theirs, but they'll stay focused on it. Remember that there are places out there that want you to stay focused on it. If something's upsetting you, like let's say the war in Ukraine right now, let's say that's what's upsetting you. Well, it's upsetting to all of us. It's a tragedy. People are dying. People are freezing to death over there right now. It's tragedy. And the media and the news and everybody wants you to relive it every single day. Well, no, you don't have to relive it every day. It's really just you wake up and think, I'm going to say a prayer for these people and send positive to these people or to this situation. You don't have to sit in all of that and stew in it. So there, before we get into the meditation, there are most definitely people who I've met over the years that I've worked with personally that have had experiences that I cannot even imagine, that are beyond my comprehension. Tragedies, frightening stuff. Have patience with yourself. Have patience with it. Don't think that it can't happen. Part of it is believing that it can happen, believing in yourself. Remember remember the number one person in the world. There's only one of them. There's not another one anywhere with 12 billion people on the planet. It's you. You are the most important thing in your life. And like I was saying, when you have the flat tire in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna have to change that tire. Hopefully you have a spare. But it's you. It's your well-being. If you are starting to fall back and have trouble with it, and this isn't something that I say very often, but spirit can help. I never say that. I'm kidding. I say it all the time. Prayer can help. Whatever God you pray to, whatever energies or spirits that you align with. And it doesn't really matter if they're real or not. For me, they're most definitely real, but you have help outside of the physical plane. I was a police officer for a little while, and Archangel Michael is the patron saint of police, and I wore St. Michael's medal the whole time I was there. I truly believed, and I asked for protection and help every single day. I believed it. I still believe it. Matter of fact, I got a beautiful statue on my altar of Archangel Michael. Now, Archangel Michael is one of the only archangels that's written in all scripture. It's written in the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Quran. It's in any book. So there's help out there. There's also help in your family on the other side. But for that to reach you, you have to really believe. You have to have faith. If you have spirit on the other side that you need to reconcile with, and you feel, well, I didn't do it in the physical life, and that's troubling you, you can go into yourself, close your eyes, picture that person, picture the instance, and ask for forgiveness. I will 100% tell you it's there. Spirit's not in the business of holding grudges. Anybody who tells you different, no, it doesn't work that way. That's all the fear factor that's been propaganda from going all the way back to Constantinople and the Greeks, centuries. Don't believe in the fear. There's a constant here. If you face your fears, fear is certainly going to have death. So if you're fearing that within yourself, like, I don't want to go to this place. I can't go there. I've put it behind me, but it's still surfacing with you, and you haven't worked on it. Remember, you don't have to work on the time, what happened, or the experience. That's not going to change. Forgiveness happens within you. It is in your thinking. It is in your process. If you were to take a bottle and put a penny in it every day, and that's your forgiveness bottle. I taught this years ago. You get a forgiveness bottle or a bottle of change, and you put your change in it every day. Eventually, that bottle's going to be full. Forgiveness is the same way. Make sure you're feeding yourself like you would feed a change bottle. Same principle. It will get full. Once it's full, seal it. And don't take any out, because you got it. It's full. You're full now. You understand the process. So make sure you're feeding yourself that forgiveness every single day. Wake up with it. Go to sleep with it. Get a piece of paper, write it down. Whatever works for you. I forget who told me the forgiveness bottle, but it certainly works. It's a concept or an idea, right? I mean, you could take that bottle down to the sink and just watch the faucet fill it up, put a cap on it, and say, I'm done. It doesn't need to be coins. The principle here is you have to fulfill it for you. No one's going to fulfill it for you. So I want to, before we get into the meditation, I just want to say a couple things. I don't know how the meditation goes. I haven't done it yet. It's going to be a little kind of like a little regressive meditation, because I don't know how it's going to go, but just know that you're safe and you're well, and whatever you see, we're going to reboot our mind into a place of forgiveness. Okay? It's important. You guys got this. Like I said, I just had something happen to me last week that is uncomprehendable. Probably one of the worst things that I can imagine. I'm not going to forget about it. I'm not going to condone it. But inevitably, I can't walk around every single day in absolute misery. I just can't do it. And when you walk around in absolute misery, you affect everything around you as well. Remember, you're an energy You are an energy center. Whatever energy you have, you are promoting and you are putting out. So consider that in your consciousness. What am I putting out today? Am I putting out sorrow? Am I putting out suffering? Am I putting out anger and fear? Or am I putting out empathy, love, light, and forgiveness? That is to walk in the way of the masters. Well, I'm not a master. No, you are. There's no question about it. But the master has taken that jar and he's filled it up. So wherever your jar is, wherever you are, your body, wherever your emotions are, start filling it with the good stuff. And you're going to see that everything starts to change for you. If you are suffering, and you'll find that your energy level, once you start practicing the art of forgiveness, your energy level will change. Your vibration will change. Your face will change. Your body will change. The things that you want to do will change. You won't want to sit on the couch and just sit there for the rest of your life. You want to get up and get out and do stuff. You'll go outside and you'll start to realize that there's beautiful things to look at. There's beautiful people to talk to. And even the people that aren't so beautiful to talk to, they're teaching you a great lesson. And I don't have sympathy for them, but I have empathy for them. And, you know, I can see what the problem is. So that is forgiveness, folks. In my world, I hope that this has brought you to a different place of thinking for yourself. I know none of this stuff is new concepts. We've all heard this before, but forgive them, for they know not what they do, is by far the greatest thing that you can say to you inside. You can say to spirit. And if you have to say it, get behind my back and stay behind my back. Don't take it in anymore. That, you know, once your cup runneth over, runneth over, you can't put anything else in it. It's just being constantly fed with love and light. It's falling over. Your energy's fine. You're feeding the universe with beautiful things. Nothing can get in there anymore. So remember to tell it to get its tail out of your way and out of my life. So are you guys ready to go into a meditation? Don't forget to smile. Have a great night, everybody. If you like the YouTube, check it out, share it. Subscribe to my channel, check out my website. Much love and peace. Namaste.